But I'll tell you what, we've only been on the road for a couple games during this pandemic. When you go to the hotels, they're all locked down for the most part. But my first question is the workout room open? And it has been.
I know
the restaurants are closed, but the workout rooms are open.
Which is awesome. To the playoffs. You will go to the playoffs if you beat this game.
All right, and so this is men's basketball. No, not to be confused. The Mike Brown Band, episode 7. Sam and John here as always. You're looking real good, but this is a special week. It's not election week. It's not bye week. It's not, it's not anything. It's Steelers
It's
week.
not cook-off week. It's Steelers week.
And Steelers week for us has been well, how do I want to put it? Depressing? Is that a word you can use? Sad?
Yep.
Unmotivating?
Yep, for 5 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, even 5 years, but even just for us personally.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the Steelers beat? We've seen the Steelers and the Bengals play 4 times, right?
I've seen them. We've seen them three times.
3? Okay. Yeah. I can't remember if I've seen them 4 times. I saw them when we went, the year we went 8-0 at home.
I was with you that year.
You were with me that year.
We went the year before, and then we went in 2018. That's 3. I don't know where the other 2 came from you, but those are the 3 that I've seen.
I think I've gone 4 times. I think I went with Cup. I'm not sure. Maybe I did only go with 3 times.
Okay.
But anyway, 3 times we've gone 0 for 3, and we're never. And it's always in heartbreaking fashion. What was it? The most recent one was when Andy broke his thumb, right? 2013.
No, it was 15.
15? We were there at that one too. So 13, 15, 18. This is
13,
terrible radio.
We went at 13. 13 was Monday Night Football. We beat them at home. We weren't there. We went in 14 at home. We lost. We went to 15. That's when Andy broke his thumb. We lost. We went in 18. No one broke their thumbs. We broke our backs and we lost. And then that was 2018. But that's, just kind of segue into everything. That's when kind of I've gotten these. That's when I met Gerry, was the 2018.
Well, we haven't mentioned that we're going to be welcoming him on. Do you want to go ahead and do that now?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's not in the lobby. I was just
saying
say, like,
I thought he was in the lobby, but yeah, I'll welcome him on.
Yeah. But I was just going to say, like, the point of the show today is it's Steelers week. It's a theme. We have, our first game with the Bengals with the new quarterback, Joe Burrow. Going up against the Steelers. Andy Dalton was not very successful, but so that's sparked our MBB 7 to be with interview guest Gerry Dulac, who's a contributor to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Muckra, a number of different things, but he's been the voice or the writer for the Steelers for almost 40 years, since 19. He's contributing. So what a perfect person to have. And then there's a unique story behind it for you as well, and the reason that we even have Gerry on a Bengals podcast, let alone just in general. So, real quickly before while we wait on our guest, you want to go ahead and just talk about this story and how?
Yeah, I was just getting after it in the gym, and you're just kind of looking around. This guy behind me is wearing some yellow, and I run really loud on the treadmill. I'm sweating nuts up there, and then I get off and I hear this really like rummagey, lovely voice say, "You're getting after it real." It's like just something like, working hard. I'm like, yeah, you too, man. You're getting after it in here. I'm always giving him the benefit of the doubt. And then long story short, found out he was there for the game because it all made sense. I'm like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm here for the Bengals Steelers game. I'm like, oh, me too. I'm like, yeah, I write for the Pittsburgh. And I instantly texted Nate, my Steelers buddy, my best friend, because he knows everybody. So that's how it came about. Is he in the lobby?
No, I thought it was. Got a message from somebody else. So we're still playing the waiting game. But while you kind of figure that out, this is I made the claim on Twitter for everybody to see in the world that this will be the week. I think the Bengals are going to beat the Steelers this week. I really do.
I just didn't know if you're saying that just because it's just.
Who do I have to impress?
I know, but
I'm a guy with a microphone that talks to his cousin once a week.
Not like that. I just mean like for your own satisfaction, for your own.
No, like are my expectations that we're going to go in there and rule ass? No, not at all. But like if you look at just the landscape of how the NFL works and what the Steelers are going for and the pressure that they're going to be under, and then also where the Bengals are currently, like I know the Steelers have been there before, so this is probably something that they're used to. But that was the first time they've been 8-0 in franchise history. Was that correct?
Pittsburgh, I think, is the first time they are 8-0.
Yeah, so they're a traditionally winning franchise. Now they're 8-0 with Kansas City that's starting to resurge after being beat by Oakland. And the weird thing this year that everybody's going to have to get adjusted to, and I think that people are overlooking, is there's 7 playoff teams this year. Not 6, there's 7. And there
could be 8. There could be 8.
But there could be a bye. Why would there could be 8? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, they voted like 16 teams if something happens. So like that's why they would do a 16 team play with COVID.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, then we'll touch on that afterwards. But it seems like that we have somebody in the queue here. So I'm gonna let you bring him in, and then and we'll go from there. Okay.
Awesome. You ready?
Yeah. All right. Ready to go.
It is 6:02 Pacific Coast time. It is 9:02 Eastern Standard Time. But this guy was most likely up at 2 a.m. working out for the last 4.5 hours, maybe even 7. He gets after it not only as a hard worker in their gym, but even a harder worker in life. I met him 2 years ago. It is Gerry Dulac, who I haven't seen in 2 years. How you doing, man?
What's up, man? It's been a while, and I'm hoping to maybe I bump into you again in the workout room in Cincy.
I know.
when we're there.
Is like, man, I saw it that day really quick. Like I was telling my cousin how this even came about. I was like, when you were in the gym that day and like you see other people working out really hard, it only motivates you to work out a little bit harder. So on these road trips, man, I could really use a Gerry Dulac in there because you're always getting after it in there, man. That was a blessing in disguise.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've only been on the road for a couple games during this pandemic. When you go to the hotels, they're all locked down for the most part. But my first question is the workout room open? And it has been.
I know
the restaurants are closed, but the workout rooms are open.
Which is awesome, man. Well, this is my cousin John. He usually does this, but since we bumped into each other really shortly 2 years ago for a Bengals Steelers week, I look no further for this week as we just started this about a month ago to get you on the show. And man, you have no idea how much it means because even before this, I'd send you a quick text. You'd respond like this, even though you didn't. It's not like we had like this growing friendship. We just met that one time in the exercise room in the Marriott for the Bengals Steelers week 2018. And I just really appreciate you just being so quick in contact and doing this. And we just appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. Bengals look like they're taking a step forward, at least after that big win against the Titans.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. And I think, and Gerry, again, just to echo what Sam said, I'm John, obviously the cousin, but it's very nice of you to join us, especially during Masters Week. And I'm sure you're busier than
well, I have it on while we're speaking, although they're in a rain delay, and I got to try and mix football and the Masters. Try and at least watch the Masters on Sunday while the game's going on if I can.
Yeah, I'm sure that's pretty difficult, and then it's pretty. For a sports fan, though, you've got to be. I mean, like this fall, at least this early beginning of the fall, it's been really kind of overwhelming with the amount of sports that are going all at once, and it makes probably life for yourself a little bit more difficult. And you have to be a little bit more organized covering football and golf at the same time.
Yeah, the one good thing for me is my focus. 100% of my focus is on football once the Steelers start. And then the golf kind of slows. But here, you had the U.S. Open into September. Typically all the majors are out of the way by the time the Steelers are playing. But the U.S. Open was in September, and now the Masters in November. Quite naturally, because of when they occurred, I was unable to attend because I'm so busy with the Steelers.
Right.
It's been a little bit different. The one thing it did do is I do a golf radio show as well, and instead of it ending in July, we did it right through the U.S. Open, and then in fact I did a Masters preview show just the other night as well. So golf being extended into the fall extended a lot of my work as well, even with golf, even though I stay, primarily busy with the Steelers.
That's pretty crazy. I'm sure that it's been a whirlwind, but it's probably been very fun too. At the same time, like you get everything all at once. I'm sure it's pretty crazy. But now you said, we're focused on the Steelers. We're a Bengals podcast. We're focused on the Steelers as well this week. And I think you prefaced, and I came out earlier this week and I said, if there was a time that the Bengals could shock anyone, this would be the week to do it for a number of different reasons. I think they could potentially beat the Steelers. We are moving in the right direction. We have a new quarterback, and we have nothing to lose. Is there anything from your standpoint? I'm just a fan in Cincinnati. From your standpoint, from a Steelers side, is there anything that the Bengals are showing you that the Steelers should be really worried about, or do you think the Steelers team is just still a step forward, and the Bengals have a little bit more time before they can compete?
Well, I think having, and as you guys see each week, having Joe Burrow, and he will get better every week. I thought he was the real deal coming out. He's a pure thrower of the football. He's not, and no knock against, Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson, who I thought should be the MVP last year and was. This guy's a thrower. He's a prototypical NFL quarterback. And can he run? Yes, but he's not wired that way. Mm-hmm. And so you're seeing your passing game, you're seeing your receivers. I don't think it's any coincidence that Tyler Boyd is having a fantastic season, and we've seen him. He's a Pittsburgh guy. Mm-hmm. He played not far from where I grew up, and I've always believed that. Good receivers great receivers don't make average quarterbacks better, but great quarterbacks make average receivers better. And I'm not calling Tyler Boyd average, but when you have a quarterback like Joe Burrow, all of a sudden your receivers look better because he makes them better. I think the other thing going on from a Steelers standpoint is, look, when you win 8 games in a row, when you start 8-0, you're going to lose somewhere. The difference between this team and those 8-8, 9-7 teams that would lose a game to the 1-win Raiders or the 2-win Chiefs back then,
the Dolphins way back in the day,
no win Jets. That's why those teams were 8-8, 9-7. Right. That's why this team is 8-0. They're not losing those games. The first 4 games they played, they beat teams who were combined. I think the number was at the time 2-14. Well, you look at who they've beaten, before the Cowboys, those 3 straight games against the Browns, Titans, and Ravens, those teams were combined 14-2.
Right.
So, they what they've done is they've done what good teams do. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat when they play the teams with poor records, and that's why they're 8-0. They're a good football team.
My one of the things that I have admired so much about this Pittsburgh team, and my cousin and I talk about it all the time, is just they're always in it, no matter what. It doesn't matter Duck Hodges in there, Mason. It doesn't matter. They're always in it, and I think that's been the Bengals' kind of the Achilles heel, is that the Steelers always have had an edge on them. This week, for some reason, I don't know if it's that a big of a deal, so I want to get your temperature on this. The Bengals PR put out that old clip of TJ Houshmandzadeh like waving the towel and everything like that. As a fan, I'm like, I don't think it was that big of a deal because that happened 15 years ago. And right. I think the only player that was still around then was Ben Roethlisberger, who was actually there to see that. But then again, man, like you got these animals like TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, Cameron Hayward, like all these guys. Is that actually a big deal on the Pittsburgh side, or is it like not even a thing?
Yeah, I don't really think it is. Somewhat since you mentioned TJ Houshmandzadeh, who Deshae Townsend used to call Pushmandzadeh because he claimed he pushed off all the time. He's actually worked with Chase Claypool, and I don't know if you knew that or not. And
I did not know that.
Yeah, in what capacity? I don't know. Probably helping him with his moves or whatever. But he actually worked with him and has helped him develop. No, I don't think it's a big deal now because so much time has been obviously in between when that happened. I do remember when that happened, though, mm-hmm. and a big deal was made of it at the time. And then, of course, here they talk about the curse of the terrible towel. It came back to bite the Bengals when the Steelers turned around and beat them in the postseason. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think that it does. But when you look when you look at the players that the Steelers have on defense, as you mentioned, Sam, they have a lot of talent in that front seven. They have guys who get after it, between Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, Bud Dupree, T.J. Watt. Devin Bush, of course, is now out for the season. But when you look at the talent in that front seven, it's the reason why they lead the league in sacks, why they lead the league in tackles for loss, why they lead the league in quarterback hits. They're very aggressive and they're very dominant up front, and they've backed that up with players in the secondary, Joe Hayden, Steve Nelson, Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
They're pretty good through and through on that defense.
Yeah, and that defense is what the Minkah Fitzpatrick trade to me still seems like just the backfield for Troy Polamalu. He's just another version of a safety that we're gonna have to deal with because he's only a second year. No, he got traded his second year.
Yeah, it's his third year,
right? Player. Yeah, great. We're gonna have to deal with him for another decade or so, or however long. That's gonna be a treat. And then T.J. Watt, Bud Dupree. I mean, just so young. One thing that I kind of wanted to transition, and that allows you to have poor games like the Ravens game, where offensively you weren't lighting up. The Steelers weren't lighting up the scoreboard, but defensively they were fantastic and they put the team away. I kind of wanted to transition real quickly because you have covered the Steelers for so long, and actually one of the teams I really enjoyed watching was that Super Bowl team on Bill Cowher's kind of last farewell, along with Roethlisberger's rookie year or his second year? Second year, yeah. Against Seattle, that run was just incredible. And then you transition into Mike Tomlin, and I think, okay, finally, the Steelers are going to take a step back. That seems to do what happens whenever you have – nope, it just seems like Sam alluded to earlier that the train keeps going. I want to get your take from somebody that's covered the team for so long because I find it interesting. What has been the biggest difference, do you think? And then maybe it's just a time frame, too, from covering somebody like Bill Cowher and now a team ran by Bill Cowher compared to a team ran by Mike Tomlin, because Tomlin's been there for now a good amount of time.
14 years, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you –
And that one more year and he will tie Bill Cowher in terms of his tenure here, who Cowher coached 15 years. Mm-hmm. I just want to go backward 1 minute and to kind of address the point that Sam made about the Steelers always seem to be in it, whether it's every game or every season. If you go back and look at the Steelers, one thing they rarely do is they rarely blow out a team and they rarely get blown out. They remain competitive in games. They remain competitive in seasons. Look at what they did last year with all the injuries to Ben Roethlisberger, season ending, Stephon Tuitt, season ending, James Conner missed 6 games, parts of a couple others. Juju Smith-Schuster missed 4 games. And yet they were in it till the very end. In fact, had control of the division until the last 3 games. And then, of course, they lost to the Jets, which is the one that really hurt them. But that, they find ways to remain competitive, and that's testament to their coaching. Look at the San Francisco 49ers. They're ravaged by injuries. They're 4-5. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles, ravaged by injuries. They're 3-4-1. Look at the Dallas Cowboys, ravaged by injuries. They're 2-7. Those teams haven't been able to do what Mike Tomlin did last year. So as much as everybody applauded the effort Mike Tomlin did last year, they should appreciate it even more this year when they see how other teams are unable to cope with injuries. And the Steelers had a ton of them. As to the difference between the two, they are both very much player-friendly coaches. They come in, they lay down the law, and then they listen to their veterans, and they relate well to their players. And the players, have a kind of an open door with the coach. And, a lot of that, though, starts at the top. And it starts with the Rooney family. It starts with identifying the right guy, and more importantly, identifying him, believing in him, and sticking with him, and maintaining that stability. And I know Marvin Lewis would say this: when the Bengals started turning the corner, is when it became apparent that the Brown family was going to stick with him. Yeah. And that's when that stability is what leads to success. And that's why it's no accident the Steelers can make the case. I mean, I think it's very apparent since the merger, they've been the most successful team in the National Football League. Now, I know the Patriots had that run with Tom Brady. But go back to the 70s, into the 80s, the 90s, and 2000s.
Yep.
I don't know that you can find a franchise that's been better consistently for the most part. Look here at Mike Tomlin. Steelers are 8-8. When they're 8-8, the people here think the sky is falling.
Yeah.
And how many
they're ready to fire him. I'm like,
how many?
why?
Right? How many teams in the National Football League would love to be 8-8? And yet that's disaster for the Steelers, because that's how high the bar has been set and the standard they expect.
I have just like two quick questions, but this is the one I want to kind of allude to, because I'd make one of my best buddies a diehard Steeler fan, Nate Laughlin, proud. Loves your stuff. That's one of the reasons I even knew who you are. And knowing him as a Steelers fan has made me appreciate the franchise even more, because I used to hate them, but it's more like someone you hate because they're so good, and you end up respecting them.
Yeah, you wish you were them.
Yes. Well, yeah, exactly, in a sense, absolutely. And I echo that all the time, because when we have injuries go down, my dad's like, I'm like, well, look at the Steelers, man. They have all these people go out, blah, blah, blah. But I digress. This season seems oddly reminiscent for you guys of the 2005 team, not only because the defense is so strong, but it seems like your offense is going back to that Hines, Ward, Plaxico, not like big personalities, but bigger production and not as big of personalities, because you got Juju Smith-Schuster, you got Chase Claypool, Washington, Deontay Johnson, Eric Ebron, who's really close to Ben Roethlisberger. Is this a reminiscent of that Super Bowl year, and do you see Pittsburgh going forward winning the Super Bowl this year, or do you not have that feeling towards them this year with them?
Well, you guys asked me about 05 a bit ago, and that 05 season, one of the differences, let me get this, it's going to ring. Let me move over here. One of the differences that you were seeing is that 05 team was 7-5 at one point, and they needed to win their last 4 games to be able to, get into the postseason. And they did, and they got on that roll. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget doing a radio show that year with Craig Wolfley, and somebody called, the former Steeler lineman, and somebody called in and asked, do you think if the Steelers get into the postseason, they can make a run at the Super Bowl? And I remember my answer being that I said, yeah, because to get into the playoffs, they have to win their final 4 games. And then they'd get on a roll, and then they might play the Bengals, which they did, and they've had success against the Bengals. Yep. And then the key will be what they do against Indianapolis. But they had gone into Indianapolis that year. They lost to the Colts. If you remember, I think Peyton Manning threw an 80-yard touchdown over Ike Taylor on the first play of the game to Marvin Harrison. But the Steelers, after that game, I know talking to the coaches, said they felt that if they had to go back there, that they had done a good job about handling the crowd noise and controlling Peyton Manning, that if they went back there, they were confident that they could go back there and win. So I thought, okay, they've had success against the Bengals there. They feel confident that if they go back to Indy, then the only hurdle would be going to Denver and dealing, with the Broncos. And so I thought, yeah, they have a good chance. And sure enough, they did go. This team, of course, is starting different. They're 8-0. Nobody here is getting ahead of themselves. Mm-hmm. There's still a long way to go, but they've put themselves in good position early to be the dominant team, the number 1 seed, if you will, to be, I don't know, the Super Bowl favorite, but certainly a Super Bowl contender. So it's a little different. That 05 team, nobody looked at them that way until they started doing it. But whereas now, I think, you have the idea that this is a pretty good football team.
I only have one more question, John. I know we just appreciate your time, so I only have one more, John. Do you want to?
Yeah, I guess so. I'll let Sam wrap it up, but in the spirit of, we'll just kind of talk about the second half of the season and where you foresee it. Do you see Pittsburgh really now, with the way that they played against Baltimore, that the biggest hurdle, and the way they played against Tennessee, that the biggest hurdle for Pittsburgh may be Kansas City in the AFC? You think that's the one true test left?
Yeah, John, I think it is the one true test that's left. Look, they have a good chance to be 10-0 before they play the Ravens again. Of course, mm-hmm. You have to beat the Bengals, and then they go to Jacksonville, where I have seen them over the years lay many eggs.
You said they hadn't got blown out. That was like one of the last times they got blown out. It was like 48-10 or 38-10 or something like that.
Right. And so I've seen them go to Jacksonville and lose games they had no business losing. So people say, where do you think they're going to lose? I always tell them, because it's a bit of a reach, but I'll say, I think they're going to go to Jacksonville and lose, as crazy as that seems. But they could be 10-0. going into that Ravens game on Thursday night, Thanksgiving night. And that'll tell you whether what's going to happen with the Ravens and the Steelers. By that, I mean, to your point, are the Chiefs the last hurdle? Baltimore, to me, is still a hurdle because they're defending champs, and they are pretty good. But if any team is equipped to stop another team, whether it's Derrick Henry, whether it's Lamar Jackson, whether it's Patrick Mahomes. Now, I'm not saying they will, but if any team is equipped to do it, it's the Steelers because of their pressure, because of the guys on their defensive line, because of those two outside edge guys, and because they have a pretty good secondary and they have a big play safety in Minkah Fitzpatrick. So if any team can slow down the Chiefs or any other team, the Steelers are most equipped to do it. And so in that regard, that's why I give them a chance. Obviously, they're showing it, but their defense gives them a chance to beat any team at any time and win any game.
My last question, Gerry, is in 2018, I remember we were working out and I finally figured out that you actually work for the Steelers. I was like, what do you think is going to happen? And you're like, I think this is a year the Bengals win this year. And I'm like, no. And that was 2 years ago. And 2 years later, I still feel the same way. I just don't feel like we're there. The only difference is we have Joe Burrow lining up behind center. Give me a score prediction of what you think this game could look like. And going into the future, is this guy and this team, from looking on the outside, the Zach Taylor era, picking up now Tack McKinley, we just got a pass rusher yesterday. Is this a team that you actually feel could beat the Steelers at some point? So beat you guys in 5 years. Is this a team that you think is headed in the right direction to actually be competitive in the division from years to come, not only on the offensive side but with the coaching staff? Or what do you see from the Cincinnati Bengals as opposed to the Marvin Lewis era, which was really competitive with Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think I think we have to wait and see with Zach Taylor, but the one key is in place, and that's the quarterback.
Yep.
I always thought Andy Dalton was more than competitive enough to win games, and they did win games with Andy Dalton. I think Joe Burrow maybe takes him up another level. He has a potential to be a marquee elite quarterback. He was already that in college, so he has a leg up in that regard. It's funny, the Bengals have had more success against the Steelers at Heinz Field than they've had against
that was the last time they beat them. November 1st, 2015, 5 years ago in Pittsburgh. This last time we beat them.
I mean, the Steelers, what's that record since Paul Brown's been open? It's, 21-1 or 20-2?
Well, Ben Roethlisberger's 25-7. 25-7. That is insane, Gerry.
I know. For an Ohio guy, too. So I think the Bengals are headed in the right direction. I think they continue to have problems on the offensive line. They have to address that. They don't have any stability on the offensive line. Year to year, it changes way too much. And to me, that's a big factor. And I thought the other area that I always thought they were weak in, although Vontaze Burfict was a good player, albeit a dirty one, they were always weak at linebacker. And that was the Steelers' strength. No. And so I thought they had good front people. They're down linemen, but they didn't have the type of playmaking linebackers to make a difference. And Burfict was good, but you never knew when he was going to be ejected or suspended. Mm-hmm. So I think that's, if you ask me, two areas of concern or areas where I think the Bengals have been lacking compared to the Steelers, that's where they are. The offensive line and linebackers, they don't stack up against the Steelers, and that's made a big difference, I think.
Well, Gerry, I for myself, we just can't thank you enough for time. I would love to just now kind of set up a future appointment for the next Bengals-Steelers game, but this has been a blast. We just can't thank you enough for your time. John, I didn't know you want to say something really quick.
Yeah, I just have one more thing, and then this is it. I promise. 30-second quick question. Do you think, and you just talked about where the Bengals' biggest areas of opportunity, go to this offseason? And I'm thinking like the linebacker road as opposed to offensive line, and address the offensive line in the free agency, and then maybe address, go after a top performing linebacker edge rusher come the draft. That being said, on the Steelers standpoint, where do you see, is this the year, or do you see it in the next couple of years that they draft the heir to Big Ben? Or since he's been able to be as consistent and as durable this season, I feel like through 8 games, do you think that they actually hold off a year or two, or do you think they take a first or second round pick on a potential heir for Big Ben?
Well, a couple things to that, John. First of all, where they draft every year, year after year, they don't get an opportunity for that elite guy.
Right.
At least a guy who looks like the surefire guy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I wouldn't surprise me at any point. I will tell you that a couple of years ago, they were interested. They really liked Deshaun Watson.
Wow.
And Kevin Colbert toyed with drafting him, except they just didn't need him at that point in time. Right. They didn't think that they didn't think Ben was ready to go at that point. They liked Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph was a third-round pick. He had a nice college pedigree. Is he the guy going forward? I think, and I've talked to a former coach about this, and because I've thought this all along. Mason Rudolph to me is Neil O'Donnell. You can win with Mason Rudolph, but you may not win a Super Bowl with Mason Rudolph.
Especially he's just throwing wide open interceptions.
Yeah, you're always looking for a better guy is what would happen. Right. But you can win with Mason Rudolph. They could go 10-6 with Mason Rudolph very easily. But yeah, I think their eyes will be open, but you just can't say, hey, we're going to go get that marquee quarterback. We're going to go get Ben's his replacement just like that. As for right now, it's Mason Rudolph. But we'll see going forward. Nothing would surprise me. But as long as they feel Ben is playing, I think they're going to try to make sure they find the pieces to win another Super Bowl before they think, let's go get his replacement.
Awesome. Well, Gerry, like I said, we can't thank you enough for your time. If we would love to have you for the next Steelers game, I'll be following up with you before then. This has been a blast. Thank you so much for your time, man, and thank you for being such an amazing person. Not only that on what you do as a work, but to me, just responding literally the day of that. I don't have words to really thank you for that, and just coming on here for a following of 24 people is just a huge blessing. I cannot wait to get this out for our own following, but more importantly for the Steelers fan, because man, you are so beloved in the Steelers nation. So it's been a pleasure having you on.
Well, Sam, you're welcome. Reach out to me anytime. I'll be glad to do it before the next game. And hey, maybe I'll see you in the workout room at the Marriott.
I can't wait until that day, Gerry. Thank you so much.
Hey, John, thanks, man. Good chatting with you.
Hey, Gerry, likewise. Yeah, we'll see you outside. Talk soon. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Bye now.
All right, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Gerry Dulac, writer for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, radio host and voice of the Steelers. A little different for us. He said 10, 15 minutes. We got him for 30. What do you think?
Oh!
That's pretty good. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, well,
was
he a great guy, man? He's the best, man.
You know, it kind of it was kind of interesting because we talk about how many moves you can make. Or from the Bengals standpoint for us, we talk about everything that we could do that never comes to fruition. We always end up, just bringing Alex Redmond up from the practice squad. That seems to be our constant, move or re-sign him. But anyway, I think that it's interesting to hear from him that the Steelers right now that they're not really, or they're not really concerned with Ben Roethlisberger's hair, and Mason Rudolph is good enough as a backup, just in case something happens. And I wanted to elaborate more on, but I didn't want to use too much of his time as I compare it to the Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay situation from this offseason, where the Packers took Jordan Love in the middle of the pack, because they never draft really high either. And they took Jordan Love from Utah State, and everybody thought, well, Rodgers is getting pushed out. Now look at what Rodgers is doing. Do the Steelers do something different, or do they still have with their draft position this year, they're not going to have anybody after 26. So do they make a trade? Do they even worry about it? And it sounds like at least from a media standpoint, they don't care. They just want to win a Super Bowl. I want to
say something. I mean, we kind of even wrap this up too. Look how calm the Steelers fans are. And they have, it's not like, we'll deal with the Bengals. We need a quarterback. We got to dude, the Steelers just know they're going to be good. And I think that that's the biggest difference that you're going to find every year. They know that they're going to – we even talked to Gerry. If you listen to Tone Diggs on Pat McAfee's show, he's like, I think we're – out of the three teams, we could probably lose to the Bengals. Gerry Dulac's like, screw the Bengals. Not even screw the Bengals, but we're not – more or less Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm more worried about Jacksonville. That's on their backup their backup to their backup quarterback.
Yeah. So, and I think there's some validity to that, because I always have thought that about the Steelers as well. But that's why, to even kind of circle this around to you and Tarantino this, and what you started with, like, I think we're gonna beat the Steelers. John, you're never gonna get me to say that. And
then I will be the voice to say it. I will be the reason. But
go ahead and say it then, man.
Jerry, the Bengals will beat the Steelers this Sunday. They will beat the Steelers this Sunday. We will beat them this Sunday. No crowd noise. No crowd noise.
Okay.
No, nothing to lose. We're off. We're coming off of a win where we beat, and a bye week. We're healthy. Like, just everything is in the Bengals' corner to be that Jacksonville team, to be that thorn in the side. I've said this on every podcast. The Bengals this year, their goal is to not make the playoffs. Or not their goal, I shouldn't say, but their destiny is to not make the playoffs. However, throughout the end of the year, when we get into this stretch of games, we are going to be either beating the teams that we're supposed to be beating or causing fits for people that are positioning themselves for the playoffs, i.e. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Miami. And then those are 3 teams that we still on our schedule that we could potentially cause havoc for. The Steelers are worried about the Chiefs on their ass. They're worried about the Ravens on their ass. They even got Tennessee still flirting around there as the 1 seed. Otherwise, they got to play opening weekend in the postseason.
Well, now I have to. Now
this is our chance.
I can't put on the YouTube. I don't know why you got to do it with the A word. I mean, you could have said anything. You said earmuffs. Because on my YouTube, it says, "Is this kid friendly?" Well, that's not kid friendly. I get where you're going, but that's not kid friendly. Let me tell you something with your little spiel. All I know is last week, 2 weeks ago, before the Titans game, I was flapping for Angels. I was at little Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Angels in the outfield. I saw some Angels. I saw some Al isn't showing up yet, and I'm just going to be honest. Al has not told me that there's going to be Angels at that game.
Did I say that the Titans were going to beat the Bengals? Did I say the Titans were going to beat the Bengals? Did I say that? Did I say the Titans? No. Did I combat you on it?
Did you say that they were going to beat the Bengals?
Yes.
You said the Titans. You said we weren't beating Tennessee.
Right.
You said we were not beating Tennessee.
Just like you're saying.
You said waxed. You said shoo-in.
Okay, so if I said you said shoo-in, if I said shoo-in, and then what happened? Right? What happened? We won. So this
you now?
Yeah, so this week I'm over here looking for Al.
But this is not your role, John. You don't do this. This has never been you. It's always been me. It's been me doing this, and look
where it's gotten us. The last 5 years have been just straight miserable.
Now we're fighting. And we had Jerry on.
The animosity was building. We were waiting for Jerry to get done answering that last question so we can go on.
But yeah, honestly, I just don't. Like I said, I'm not being a pessimist.